Hey, this is Lake Enderil, creator of the Dynamic Stealth mod, and I'm going to do some guide videos on the Dynamic Stealth mod. Dynamic Stealth is a dynamic stealth engine for Minecraft. Dynamic Stealth is currently version 106 for Minecraft version 112.106. Fantastic Lib is a requirement for Dynamic Stealth and is currently version 36. Those are the only two mods I'll have installed for now, as well as Minecraft Forge 14.23.5.2.8.3.8. Alright, let's go in. So first I'll just introduce the mod with its default settings. You can already see that cow over there. As I look away from it, it kind of fades out, disappears. This is intended. By default, the sight systems work against players as well as mobs. So you can actually use this for PvP and you can hide from other players. Anyway, so the basics of the basics. Let's get a zombie. Actually, we'll do a creeper since they don't burn. So the most basic function of dynamic stealth is that you can actually sneak up behind things. So in vanilla, this creeper would have noticed me. It still can if it turns around. But it hasn't noticed me because the dynamic stealth sight systems decide that it shouldn't be noticing me. Now it has noticed me. You can see this eye in the middle of the screen now. It's open. If that eye is open, then something can see you. Since I'm looking at that creeper, you can see that it's been highlighted red, which means that it's currently targeting me. If it's orange, then it's either searching for me or searching for somebody. It'll say the action on this little HUD that you can see there. You can see there's a little health gauge up there. That skull displays the same information as that where it says threat 100% there. This is a threat system that basically is how you can basically translate it into how long something is going to look for you once it loses sight of you. So let me go back into creative mode, because nothing can see you in creative mode. So you can see that the threat level is slowly going down because it's looking for me, but it hasn't been able to find me for a little while. Once it sits there and searches around for a while, it'll give up. So that's the most basic function of dynamic stealth. You can drop dynamic stealth in as is without even looking at the config and just try to use it to sneak up behind stuff, and that's fine. But dynamic stealth also has a massive config with all kinds of options in it and hidden features that you may not realize are there unless you play with it for a while or go through the configs and actually figure out all that stuff. Anyway, let's introduce some of the other basic features first. And yes, I'm just going to be cutting these videos together because video editing's not something I've been doing a lot of, so. Anyway. So, let's go over sneak attacks. There are sneak attacks in dynamic stealth by default, as well as assassinations, and I'll go over those now. So normally, if I were to hit this creeper with my fist, when it actually knows I'm here, let's just grab another one. it would deal 1 damage. Exactly 1 damage. You can see it went from 20 to 19. That's a full-powered punch without a critical or anything like that. Let's go back into creative mode. So right now I'm in creative mode, which means that it cannot see me. It's not aware of my current position, so it's not able to avoid my attacks as well, right? So that's the idea of a sneak attack. Now if I hit it, it dealt 1.2 damage. It actually dealt probably 1.25 damage. Yeah. So it just rounds it on the health bar. So I'm getting a little damage boost by hitting this creeper when it can't see me. I mean, obviously, under normal circumstances, you wouldn't be using creative mode to do that. But for example's sake, it makes it really easy for me to show a sneak attack. Now, if you have a mob or player, well, actually I'm not sure if I did this for players. Can't remember at the moment. But if you have a mob that you manage to kill without it ever being aware of your position, it can be, aware that it's been hit. But as long as it doesn't ever actually find you, and you manage to kill it without it finding you, that'll count as an assassination, and you'll get some potion effects by default for a little bit. If something gets back into idle mode, blue skull, blue outline, it means the threat level has gone down to 0 and it's given up, searching. Then that's basically reset it. So now if I were to hit this one saw me for a little bit earlier, but it's reset now. So now if I were to do this one, it would also give me assassination. The effects that assassination gives you by default are night vision and invisibility and soul sight, which is a potion effect that's added by dynamic stealth. Soul sight lets you see things as if they were all glowing. It basically makes it so that you can see all entities as if they were glowing while you have the soul sight potion effect, which I guess I'll just go right into that. Soul sight, just in case you didn't get a good look at it. So I can see all these entities, including the ones underground. If I've got soul sight. Let's also talk about invisibility for a little bit. Invisibility in vanilla Minecraft isn't that great. Mobs can still see you, which is kind of dumb, right? So I've changed how invisibility works as well. Invisibility with dynamic stealth installed. Get a creeper out here again. With dynamic stealth installed, invisibility is a lot better. Turn it. So with dynamic stealth involved, invisibility makes you extremely difficult to notice. Things can still see you. You can see that I'm like right in front of this creeper in full light, and the eye is expanding. If I get close enough, it will see me. But it makes it a lot easier to sneak up around and behind things. If I didn't have invisibility, that creeper would see me right now, probably. Another thing to note is that in order to balance things out a little bit. Invisibility, like if you just stayed invisible when you hit something, it would be really overpowered, right? So also with dynamic stealth installed, if you, oops, go back to game mode 0. If you hit something while you're invisible, it removes your invisibility. I mean, unless you have some item that's constantly giving you invisibility or something, which some mods have. Blindness. Let's talk about that. Blindness works, kind of in a similar way to invisibility. I guess what I should say is that it's kind of the opposite of invisibility, right? So I guess I can just hit myself with this and show you. If I hit myself with this blindness potion, aside from the normal effect, it also makes it more difficult for me to see entities. So, oh, that went away really fast. Oh, right, because splash potions affect you longer the closer they hit to you. But as you can see right now, I can see that skeleton just fine. But if I get blindness, then I can't see it from that same position. Blindness isn't as effective as invisibility, but it does have an effect. And if you combine the two, then things are really going to have a hard time seeing you. But like invisibility, blindness will also be removed when you hit something, or when something is hit. So like if I drop this splash potion right here, that'll remove blindness from both me and the creeper when I hit him. It removes invisibility and blindness from both parties involved, the attacker and the victim. By default. You can change that in the settings. Okay, I'm going to go through a few of the other things that affect stealth. There's angle, if you're behind something. There's distance if you're far away from something. There's light level, if it's dark, where you're standing, you're harder to see. There's a few other things. If you're glowing, everything can see you. If you're glowing, they can see you, if they're looking towards you. If they're looking away from you, they still won't see you if you're glowing. If you're on fire, you're a lot easier to see. Let's see what else was there. I'm just going to go in here, not to change settings, but to look at the site again. Blindness, crouching, invisibility, mob heads. Mob heads work against that specific mob type. Armor. The more armor you have on, the easier you are to see. So if you really want to sneak, you can take off all your armor. You can see how much you think your armor affects, your sneaking by just experimenting with it. Some modded armors give a ridiculous amount of armor, so they would probably make you very visible. Light levels, right? Angle, distance, I mentioned those. Burning and glowing, I mentioned those. That pretty much covers it as far as the things that affect visibility. Okay, let's go back to sneak attacks for a second. So before I showed that a sneak attack gives a 25% damage bonus by default. If you just punch something, it gives the same percentage bonus if you hit something with a diamond sword. So diamond sword normally deals 7 damage, but if I do a sneak attack with a diamond sword, it deals 8 8.8, probably 8.85, I'm guessing, actually. So if you were to combine that with a critical, deals a good amount of damage. That's one more normal attack and that creeper's dead with just a normal diamond sword. Now, swords aren't exactly, backstabby weapons. I've gone ahead and put Spartan weapons in here, Spartan weaponry in here, because Spartan weaponry has some daggers. With the default settings on dynamic stealth, daggers get a better backstab bonus. Daggers and certain other weapons like commas. Some mods have commas. So if I were to backstab a creeper with this diamond dagger, which normally deals 4 damage, it straight up died. And let me show you the default settings I have there. It is technically not an insta-kill, it's just a high damage bonus for daggers. So if you have some tougher mobs in the game, like if you have a mod that increases the health of mobs, or if you have a mod that just adds mobs that have higher health, like Lycanite, or there's a bunch out there. Let's see. Server settings, interactions, stealth attack, melee. These are the melee stealth attack settings. Melee stealth attack settings for dynamic stealth. These first 4 are the defaults. These apply to most things. And then this last setting is overrides for specific items, for specific weapons. So most things get a 1.25 damage multiplier, right? 25% bonus damage. They don't penetrate armor, they just get a damage bonus, and they don't apply any potion effects to the attacker or the victim. In here we've got a bunch of default settings I've added for mod weapons and things like that. I've basically gone by a general rule of thumb of daggers get a 5 times damage multiplier, multiplied by 5, that's a lot, and they bypass armor, and commas and sickles. Oh, these are katanas, actually. It looks like I gave katanas and commas both the same bonus. They bypass armor and they give a 3 times damage. You can of course change these, you can get rid of them all, you can add different ones, whatever. I won't go into the detailed settings for those yet. Okay, we're just kind of hopping through a bunch of different features first. I'll go over the HUD real quick. There's not a whole lot to explain at this point. You've already seen the health gauge. I talked about the threat gauge briefly. There's a light gauge on the bottom right. You can see that sun-like symbol down there. I call those light crystals, but it doesn't matter. They don't have any lore or anything so far. That gauge displays your current light level where you're standing, right? Right now it's daytime, we're in full lighting, and this is the server side light level that it's displaying. So if you have a mod that affects only the client side light level, like some of the dynamic stealth, or not dynamic stealth, some of the dynamic lighting mods only affect client side block light levels and don't affect the server side block light levels. It'll show the server side light levels on this gauge. which is, the reason that's more useful is because only the server-side light levels can be used for the stealth systems to enforce the stealth system mechanics, you know, to keep things from seeing each other correctly. So, right now it's full lighting. If I were to go to nighttime, I guess we have a time set midnight? No, time set night. That's dusk. Well, actually, that's good. Let's look at that. So the light level should go down over time here. Yeah, you can see it just decreased one crystal there. You can also, of course, go underground to decrease the light level. So underground it can actually get to 0. Above ground it never actually gets to 0, at least not with vanilla. 4 is as low as it goes. So this is the lowest light level outdoors right now. Whoops, I miscounted. It was 5 a second ago. Now it's 4. Underground it can get lower, it can get to 0. And in 0 light level things are really hard to see. So I'm looking directly at that creeper and I can't see it if it's like 3 blocks away, 4 blocks away, something like that, with default settings. And that's me looking directly at it. If I'm looking a little to the side or something, I may not notice that creeper until it's basically in my face. The same applies to the creeper, of course. If it's not looking towards me, it's not going to notice me until I'm real close, and it'll lose sight of me really easily. This is where night vision comes in really handy. So with vanilla Minecraft, night vision isn't really that useful. It only, you know, kind of increases how bright things are graphically, but if you've got your video settings set to warm, whatever, brightness, then you can basically see in the dark anyway. No Minecraft without night vision, you don't really need night vision for anything. But night vision, you know, helps you a lot if you're going through caves trying to kill things. So if I'm going through here as an assassin with my dagger and night vision in the cave, and I can see that creeper ahead of time. Of course, he's facing kind of a direction I don't care for. So in this case, I would probably... I would be down here with a pick, right? Under normal circumstances. In this case, I would dig behind him. Which he can't hear because I never did get around to doing the hearing. Did he just walk? He just walked somewhere, didn't he? Yep. Get behind him. Assassinate. Get my bonus potion effects for a little bit. Maybe try to find another mob and assassinate him. I don't have a connecting... don't have a connecting passage right now, so... And just since we mentioned, you know, spelunking, going through caves, there's a mod called Warley Caves, Warley's Caves, which makes caves a lot more interesting. Especially alongside dynamic stealth. Because at this point, it's a lot more viable to actually sneak around things. Because on vanilla, caves are usually just super thin passages and that's it. With Warley Caves, you could be in adventure mode probably. Oh, whoops, that's spectator. You know, where you can't actually dig through the terrain. and you could still manage to sneak around things, behind things. Get assassination combos. Oh, uh-oh. So, if you don't kill something in one hit, if you do kill something in one hit, it will not alert anything nearby. If you don't kill them in one hit, they will alert nearby mobs of the same type by default. That was a good thing to show. If they're dead, obviously, they don't alert anybody. So let's do a jump attack. Yeah, see, he didn't alert that time because I killed him. That was odd. I guess I didn't get the, no, I didn't hear the crit sound effect. I must have attacked too soon. Anyway, you get the idea. You can sneak up things a lot better with a more open cave system like this. So I do highly suggest Worley's Caves as one of the mods that goes well with dynamic stealth. And they're just more interesting caves in general, I think. Okay, so a few more things to talk about. You can see pigs have a green skull, whereas the skeletons and zombies and stuff had a blue skull when they couldn't see you, when they can't see you. Green skull means that it's a passive creature. Passive creatures aren't going to give you, they don't give you, you can still sneak attack them for bonus damage, but they're not going to give you assassination bonuses for, assassinating them or whatever. They don't count towards assassinations. Because that would be, that'd be dumb. Anyway. So, normally dynamic stealth, hides you from things, hides things from you. There's certain fights where that wouldn't work out very well, like the Ender Dragon. So, there have been some special exceptions put in. The Ender Dragon's pretty far away. Normally I don't think I'd be able to see him that far away. He can also see you. Well, he can't see me right now just because I'm in creative mode, right? But if I were not in creative mode, he'd be able to see me just fine wherever I'm at, even if I'm behind a wall or whatever, just like normal. His outline's black. That means he's in threat bypass mode. It means that he doesn't use the dynamic stealth AI, and he doesn't gain a threat against specific targets. Dynamic stealth also changes the sight for mobs so that they can basically see what you can see. So with vanilla Minecraft, mobs actually can't see through glass, right? But with dynamic stealth they can. Because you can see through glass, so they should be able to see through glass, right? Nope. Daytime. So you can see that creeper can see me just fine and will explode. So let's go over something else in dynamic stealth. A couple other things actually. So if I were to just go up and hit one of these with melee, they would warn all the other mobs of their kind, so all the other skeletons nearby, and they would start looking around for me in the general area, right? But what if you're far away, though, when you attack? Okay, let's calm down. If I'm way back here, and actually hit them. They know the general direction that the attack came from. They don't know your exact position, but they know kind of the general area to look in, and they'll come over this way and start looking around. Not for very long, because I didn't actually deal any damage. Actually, the snowball doesn't deal damage. But the more damage you deal, the longer they would look around. Now, let's do something interesting. Hopefully without me dying too fast. Now, when enemies start attacking each other, it gets really interesting. Make myself invisible again. So they aggroed to each other at this point, because, you know, some of them accidentally shot each other. And at this point, they're all just bar fight mode, basically. You shot me, you shot me. I'll shoot you. So the threat system does work between mobs also. They can gain threat against other mobs and fight each other and look for each other. They don't normally try to hide from each other, right? But someday I may get around to making like a ninja mob that actually purposely uses the stealth engine against you. Could be interesting. So that should cover the very basics of dynamic stealth without going into the actual configs, really. I may do some more videos going into more detailed systems, but as far as just dropping the mod in and playing it, that should give you a pretty good idea of what it does. There is one specific config that I'll mention though, which is the player senses, because a lot of people ask about this. So some people don't like that the stealth system works against the player also. You know, things can hide from you. If you don't want that, you can go into server settings, senses, and disable player senses. Turn use player senses to false. And then I'm pretty sure you have to restart the game if you want to apply that. And that'll make it so that you can see things, you know, how you would normally with vanilla. Just keep in mind that then obviously you can't hide from other players anymore either, right? I guess while I'm talking about that, I'll also mention that with the way that dynamic stealth enforces stealth, it works against minimaps and stuff too. So if players have minimaps and, you know, whatever other client-side mods that, like, there's some client-side mods that make it so they can see invisible entities and stuff. If you have dynamic stealth player senses turned on, dynamic stealth will keep you hidden when you should be hidden. So other players aren't going to see you on their mini-maps if you're sneaking up behind them, and they're not going to, you know, be able to see you with a client hack if you're invisible and in front of them and dynamic stealth says that you shouldn't be visible to them. They won't be able to see you with a client hack. Anyway, it's not perfect. They can still see you break, you know, if you break a block in front of them somewhere, they're going to see that, right? Or if you make sound, they'll notice the sound. But you get the idea. Alright, well, that's it for the basic video. I may or may not go through the configs in more detailed videos later. There's a bunch of like mod compatibility stuff in there for specific mods, like CNPCs and neat and whatever. I don't even remember right now. There's a lot of stuff in the configs. But yeah, this is the basic video, so I'm not going to go through all that. So, happy hunting, and maybe I'll see you next time.